Okay, guys, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do another pinning. This should be the final pinning to get our pleat a little tight so that we can get ready for hand stitching. And I'm going to start with the hand stitching. I'm not going to do the whole thing because it can be very tedious and boring. I'm just going to show you. I might do this area here for you, okay? So what I'm going to do now, though, first is I'm going to I want my seam, my hem, to be right up at the edge, okay? I'm going to be hand stitching this entire seat. And then I'm going to show you what I did there, actually. In all fairness, I put the needle in. I'm pulling this. I'm going about 3 inches, and then I'm putting the needle in. But then I'm going to stretch it this way in order to keep the tension. Did you see that? First one doesn't matter. It's the other ones that do matter. I want to make it as tight as possible, and that will make an easier stitch, a hand stitch, right? So you can see already some of the slack. I'm going to pull it this way, just to keep it tight. You see already but we have to work that out, right? Okay, and so I have a combination of pins and pin staples in there. So I'm just going to very carefully take that out. I'm going to take this one out too. What I'm going to do is stretch that up. At the same time, I'm paying attention to my underneath part. I want to make sure that feels good to the touch. I like what I just did there, so I'm going to take a pin and pin that, and then I'm going to come back and pin this. Then I'm going to take my mallet, just put that little hammer down there, and feel it. It feels really good. Then I'm going to take this. You get the point. You get the point. That first pinning never is the final pinning, as you can see. And all that will pull out this way. And if I need to make up if I have to do any more stapling, it's going to be under the arm in order to get this area tight. But let's continue down this way because I want to show you the stitching in this area. Let's just even it up. Mean to be in your way, but I'm just move off the camera there. You can see. Okay, let's show you the stitch now. I will tell you, every student that I've ever shown this stitch to did a great job with the stitch. As a matter of fact, they did too good of a job with the stitch. So when they were taking little tiny stitches, it almost looked like a machine had done it. So what I don't want you guys to do that. I wish I showed you a picture of this before I took it apart. It's too late, but you knew that this was hand stitched. So in other words, don't be too perfect. Show the world that you took the time to hand stitch this. Otherwise, they're going to think it was a machine that did it. Just certainly not a machine, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take about a yard piece. I'm going to focus right here for now. You don't want to take too much of the thread. The thread, by the way, it is a hand thread. It's specifically made for this. The needle's 1.5 inch needle. I'm going to thread this. And you do want to try to be even with that top edge. I'm going to start by coming a little bit at an angle up to the top. I'm going to get a knot down in here. And then you want to be just slightly behind. Remember, it's called a blind stitch, and it's also called it's a little bit of a back stitch. I'm going to explain that in a minute. Hold on a second. Let's just see how this is going to perform. Never know until you get that first stitch in. Actually, it looks pretty good. So I'm going to slow this down for you. So what I do is I use this as a guide to see how far back I have to be, which is about, I'd say, 1/16 of an inch, or about 2 thread widths behind, 2 or 3 thread widths behind it. And in this area, it's about 1/2 of an inch. Let me explain this. The transition is this point. This is the really important to get that right perfect. Did you see that? Now, everything else, the length of the stitch in the outside back and the inside back, it can vary. But this can't. You have to be right that 1/16 of an inch behind. I'm gonna pull away here to let the camera show you this angle, and I'm gonna do this very slowly. See, this is a really good transition. It's the behind that locks the stitch. Okay, I'm gonna do it again. I'm using coming up and in here into the inside back now, and I'm using the reason I have this up is I'm using that as a guide to see how far back I need to be. That just gives it, that's just a good tool. Now I'm gonna come down. You guys can get really good at this as you learn, as you move along. And then I'm coming up. See that? Make sure you have classical music playing in the background when you do this. This is kind of, pick your time when you're going to do this, because it's labor intensive, and you might just want to float away in the work. You don't want to have a lot of things going on around you when you're doing this. In other words, pick a good time. Look how nice that is, you guys. And does it look hand stitched? Yeah, I think so, but it's supposed to. Could I do a better job? Could I tighten up my stitching? Yeah, I could. I'm not going to do it though, because I have a nice pace going here. But sometimes the students they'd come in like this, and then they'd be right out like that, like really half of what the stitching that I would take. Let me just do one. And then they would really, focus in on this. They really got the concept of that 2 or 3 thread widths behind, and they would really focus and end up really with a beautiful, too good. I want people to know that I did the hand stitching on this. So I take a little bit longer in here. This is about 1/2 of an inch that I'm taking. I think that's the key to making it look more like a hand stitch, a longer stitch. Not too long though. You don't want to be 3/4 of an inch. That's too much. You want to close it. The whole idea is you're closing the outside into the inside, right? So I'm going to do a few more stitches. how nice that is, you guys. I'm going to stop right there. I want to turn the chair around and show you the cushions, which we're not going to get into this segment of this video, or this will be the end of it, but I just want to show you how the cushions fit on here. So we'll cut for a second. So you guys, even for me, I've been doing this for 40 years. Womb chairs are difficult, I have to say. And every one of them is a little difficult. It really tests your skills. So if you guys want to do it, I would encourage you to attempt to do it. And I think if you follow my steps and you use the right fabrics, you'll do a great job. So it does come with 2 cushions. That will be probably another lesson at some other point. But there you go. I think we've shown you the hardest part of a womb chair. So I hope that helps you guys. We'll see you later.